effective enough at dealing with recidivism and drug-related, drug addicts and the related crime that inevitably flows from that. So the chief law enforcement officer is making an issue of this. I'd be interested in where the candidates stand, as one of you two will be the next mayor, and is there a role for the mayor to provide some leadership in this area?
Well, you know, the crime and drug issues are obviously very critical, especially what we've seen here in the last few years with the influx of heroin into our community. I feel just like about every other problem, really, especially a large problem like crime, there is no one single approach. It's got to be a multifaceted approach. Enforcement obviously is very critical and very important. I'm a big believer in the community policing model, where the police and the neighborhoods and the citizens and businesses all work together, so that the police and those people develop good working relationships. The people in the neighborhoods, those businesses and citizens, feel a lot more comfortable working with the police, and the police have a better working relationship. I've talked with the police chief about this, about getting out of their vehicles more often, actually walking a beat where they're, you know, knocking on the businesses and getting to know who are the people in the neighborhood. I'm a big believer in this community policing model. I think Crosse has done it in bits and pieces. You've seen it with the bike patrols and some of those things. But as mayor, I would advocate for a much stronger and much more, you know, a much more comprehensive approach with a community policing model where the police are a lot more engaged with our neighbors. And that said, I do feel that the drug court system is working. I do think that it is another part of that approach, the treatment and those aspects, to deal with our crime issues. I do feel that the recidivism rates and, you know, the rate of people committing a crime and then going back to commit those crimes, the drug courts have showed that they are effective and they reduce those rates. So again, I think it's a combination of approaches. I don't think there's one single solution there, but I think, again, as mayor, I'd be looking to sit down with the police chief, the judges, the Department of Corrections, and all those folks to make sure that we had a comprehensive approach.
Thank you. Mr. Farmer?
Well, first I think you have to give the police chief a break. Just got here, new, okay. He's a very qualified police chief, and I think we're in good hands, and I look forward to working with him. What I have done in the past, when there has been a problem with enforcement, and maybe you don't think that the judge has the same viewpoint that you'd like, is I have gone to see the judge, and they're not going to tell you A, B, C, what's wrong with the ordinance or the law that the city has, because that would be too easy. But if you talk to them at length, and I've done that, on occasion I think it took me over 6 hours of conversation to finally divine what they were looking for. And you can't be critical of that, because they are supposed to be, you know, that's not their role to tell you how to draft your ordinance. And it took multiple conversations. But that is far more productive, to have that relationship where you can go in and spend the hours and find out what is the problem that the judge may have with that. Okay, usually I've discovered the problem is they don't like subjectivity. Okay, they're much more comfortable with specifics, and laws that have subjectivity in terms of their enforcement. They're uncomfortable with, because then they don't know. They want more specificity. But I've discovered, and I'm sure the chief after those remarks has discovered, that it's far better to sit down with the judge and just have a long conversation. I remember one conversation I had with the judge. It was long enough that he said, next time we do this, I'll buy you lunch. Right through the lunch hour. Thank you.
Next question from the audience.